Today we're going to tie the May Haystack. The Haystack is an excellent pattern in the Northeast. It's not my pattern. It's Fran Better's pattern. It's been around for a long time. The only difference between this pattern and any other is really no difference. It's just the material chosen to match the March Brown hatch. It's only tied with two materials. It's tied with number 2 hairline dubbing, March Brown dubbing, and it's tied with coastal Done hair, coastal hair. It's got one aspect to it that you want to look for, aside from anything else. Makes the fly. It's got the barring. It's not a solid done, it's not a dyed color, it's a natural hair, and it goes from the dark base up to the 2 tones of tan tip and then a fine black tip. Normally when you're trying to float deer hair, you'd avoid the non-hollow extended black tips for done hair. It's not your first choice. This is actually the hair that a lot of people throw away. It doesn't float as well for winging. However, it works excellent for a haystack, and it gives that desired mottled look for the wing of the May Haystack, which is a March Brown pattern. We start off with a size 14 standard dry fly hook and brown 6/0 uni thread. Start our thread, form a base, standard. And this fly you will manipulate. I find myself tweaking it after it's tied. I trim it down a little bit, so I don't worry about being exact when I'm actually tying the materials in, because you can trim it and you can manipulate it and make your fly exactly what you want. First step is to tie in your tail. It's not a 3 or 4 or even a 6 fiber tail. It's a fairly bushy tail. You're going to tie it in shank length. And what I do is I tie it in with a few loops to get it where I want it. And then I wrap my thread forward loosely to bind down the majority of that hair. And then wrap back again to the point of tie in tightly to keep it where I want it. That just helps form the body. And like I said, this hair will flare. It'll extend out. Don't worry about that. And don't worry about the butt ends up here, because you're just going to trim them down. Just clip them off. You can go out of your way to manipulate it when you first tie it in and maybe prep the butt to exactly the length you want. However, I found it just as easy to just tie it in and clip it off. And bring your thread up to about 2 eye lengths behind the eye. And you're going to take your second prepared stack of model coastal deer hair. Yeah, we might want to stack that again. Not quite what I want. Alright. And you're going to tie the wing in right about the same length, maybe slightly shorter, but you want it to be about shank length at the tie-in point. And pinch wrap, couple wraps, get it where you want it, and then do the same thing. I bring a couple loose wraps back to help form the body, and then bring it back forward tightly. At this point you'll lift the butt ends of the wing and clip it off as good as you can. and bind it down. It's not exact. You can move it at this point still. Clip off your butt ends. And I'll also clip off any flyers. If I see particular hairs just aren't going to cooperate, I won't fight with them at this point. I'll just clip them. No sense in fighting if one hair wants to go in the wrong direction. You got enough on here. Alright, and then you're going to sweep your hair back and wrap back into it to stand it up. And you're just going to post it. You're not going to worry about flaring it yet. And make sure that any hair that has rolled on me is out of the way of the body. I over tie this fly with deer hair because in the end I still want to have a substantial amount on the tail and the wing. It's an impressionistic fly. So you're really not that worried about it. Okay, at this point we're going to dub our abdomen. I actually dub the entire fly. Form a dubbing noodle. Not too substantial. This fly will look very buggy and it'll be a mess after the first fish. Pinch it dry, false cast a couple times. Throw some floating on the wing and the tail. Keep fishing it. It seems like this is one of those flies that the more tattered it becomes, the better it seems to fish. And fill that transition. Bring your dubbing up tight to the wing. And dub a little bit more. And move on to the thorax portion and post the wing. Usually do this in 2 stages versus trying to get exact to do the abdomen and the thorax in one sweep. Just found it ends up being a 2-stage effort. And sweep your wing back, and you're going to bind it back pretty good. You're going to keep it at about a 45-degree angle for a little bit here. Form your head. Get your dubbing in there, and then get your wing posted. And at this point, you're going to whip finish. Like I said, at first, this fly is going to look like a mess. But what I found is if you tie it to look exact when you first finish it, it'll come out slightly sparse. Not exactly what you want. So I don't even attempt. I over tie it, if that makes sense. I over tie it with materials. I get it where I want it. Then you're going to pinch flare your hair. Just start it. You can rotate a little bit with your thumb if it's leaning a little bit. And I don't shoot with the haystack. I do not shoot for a full 180 degrees. I want it to be slightly flared up because I want to sit this thing low in the water column. I don't want it to be perfectly, the wing to be perfectly perpendicular this way to the water column. I want it to be slightly angled. If you can see what I mean. It's slightly delted back. Doesn't go 180 degrees. It's upright. And slightly leaning forward is what you want. Trim your tail to make sure that everything is where you want it. Now, one little hair I want to take out of there. Like I said, this will pick out. It will look very buggy after the first fish, even after the first few casts. Once you get it wet, soaked, dry it back out again, be a very buggy pattern. And that's it, the May Haystack. It's a standard haystack. The only thing exact about this fly is the type of hair you use. You want the barring. Without the barring, it stops being a hay haystack, and it really stops being a March Brown pattern from what I've found. This sitting in the column does excellent. It's my favorite by far dry fly pattern for March Browns. Floats very well, very durable. Like I said, it can take a beating and still keep catching fish. And there it is. I hope it adds to your box. Good luck on the water. Thank you.